They want you, but they are afraid. They miss you, but they do not know whether you will welcome them back. They feel the pull toward you every single day, yet something keeps stopping them from acting on it. That something is fear, and that fear has been growing quietly inside them for a very long time. Yesterday, everything they had been holding back finally reached a breaking point. The pressure became too great. The walls they built around themselves started cracking, and for the first time in a long time, they could not pretend anymore. Stay with this, because what you are about to hear explains exactly what is happening right now and why you felt something unusual yesterday. For months, maybe even longer, this person has been convincing themselves that distance was the right choice. They told themselves that enough time had passed. They told themselves that they were moving forward. They buried themselves in work, in responsibilities, in distractions, in the noise of daily life. But none of it worked the way they hoped. None of it erased the connection. It only covered it for a little while, the way a thin layer of snow covers the ground without changing what is beneath it. The feelings were always there. The memories were always present. The connection never disappeared. It simply waited. And yesterday, it stopped waiting quietly. Something happened yesterday that forced this person to stop running. Maybe it was a quiet moment late at night, when the world went silent and there was nothing left to distract them. Maybe it was the middle of an ordinary afternoon when a simple memory arrived without any warning at all. A song, a place, a smell, a thought that came out of nowhere. Whatever the trigger was, the effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every emotion they had been suppressing for so long came rushing to the surface at once. That is why the energy felt so intense. That is why you sensed something without being able to fully explain it. There are moments when emotional weight becomes so concentrated that it breaks through every barrier a person builds. Yesterday was one of those moments for them. They were forced to face truths they had been avoiding. They realized that time had continued moving forward. They realized that life had changed. But most importantly, they realized something about you. Something that shook them deeply. They began noticing that you were no longer waiting in the same way you once did. Your energy felt different to them. Your focus felt different. Even if you never said a single dramatic word, even if you simply began pouring more attention into your own life and your own growth, they felt it. The soul notices changes long before the mind can put them into words. And yesterday they felt a shift that they could no longer ignore. For the first time, the possibility of truly losing you stopped being some distant and abstract idea. It became real. That realization brought a kind of fear that goes far deeper than ordinary discomfort. Not the fear of being alone for one evening. Not the fear of temporary sadness. A much heavier fear. The fear of recognizing the value of someone only after creating distance from them. The fear of understanding what they had while wondering whether it can ever be found again. That is the weight they are carrying right now. And that weight is why their thoughts have become so repetitive and so impossible to silence. Your name appears in their mind unexpectedly. Memories replay without any invitation. Conversations from the past return with surprising clarity. Small details they were certain they had forgotten are suddenly vivid again. The sound of your voice, the way you laughed, the particular comfort of your presence, the rare feeling of being truly understood by another person. These things are not appearing by accident. They are surfacing because the emotional walls this person built are finally weakening. When someone stops fighting what they truly feel, everything they pushed away begins coming back. And that is exactly what is happening inside them right now. Yesterday they could no longer maintain the story they had been telling themselves. The evidence was everywhere inside them. No matter where they looked, they found reminders. No matter what they focused on, thoughts of you kept appearing between the cracks of everything else. This created frustration. It created confusion. It created a kind of exhaustion that comes not from physical effort, but from emotional resistance. Because the harder a person tries to push feelings away, the stronger those feelings tend to become. What is suppressed does not vanish. It grows in silence. What is avoided does not weaken. It gains strength in the shadows. Eventually the pressure becomes impossible to contain. Yesterday that moment arrived for them. This person is not simply remembering you. They are confronting themselves. They are confronting the choices they made. They are confronting the opportunities that slipped away. They are confronting the possibility that pride, fear, or hesitation may have cost them something truly precious. These realizations are not easy. They create a storm inside the heart, and storms always seek release. This is why you may continue noticing unusual sensations in the days ahead, moments of unexpected emotion, sudden memories that arrive for no clear reason, strange dreams, an unexplained urge to check your phone even when nothing is waiting. These experiences happen when emotional energy reaches a certain intensity between two people who once shared something meaningful. The connection does not simply end because communication stops. Silence changes many things, but certain emotional bonds remain alive far longer than most people expect. Yesterday this person felt those bonds with extraordinary force. For them it was as though every unresolved emotion suddenly demanded recognition at the same time. There was nowhere to hide. No distraction was powerful enough. No activity was interesting enough. No conversation with anyone else felt satisfying enough. Everything felt incomplete. Everything felt slightly hollow because at the center of their emotional world stood one undeniable truth. They still care. And caring creates vulnerability. That vulnerability is exactly what they have been running from. Yet yesterday it found them anyway. It arrived without permission. It arrived without warning. And once it arrived, it refused to leave. Now they are standing at an emotional crossroads. One path asks them to keep pretending, to keep suppressing, to keep acting as though nothing matters and nothing was lost. The other path asks them to be honest, to acknowledge what they feel, to admit what they have been quietly carrying for so long. That choice is creating tremendous internal pressure because honesty requires courage, and courage becomes difficult when the outcome is uncertain. They do not know what your reaction would be. They do not know how much has changed between you. They do not know whether they still have any place in your life. Those questions circle through their mind endlessly, hour after hour, creating a cycle of hope followed by fear. One moment they imagine reaching out. The next moment doubt convinces them to stay silent. One moment they feel brave. The next moment the fear of rejection returns and freezes them completely. This emotional back and forth is exhausting. It drains their energy. It keeps them awake at night. It makes it hard to concentrate during the day. It forces them to confront feelings they believed they had already moved past. That is why yesterday was so significant. It was not just another difficult day. It was a turning point, an emotional threshold, a moment when something hidden inside them finally demanded recognition and refused to accept silence as an answer. The human heart can tolerate many things. It can tolerate distance. It can endure uncertainty. It can survive long stretches of silence. But eventually, it becomes tired of carrying unspoken emotions alone. Eventually it seeks resolution. That desire for resolution is growing stronger inside this person every single day now. Whether they admit it openly or not, they are searching for something. They are searching for clarity. They are searching for peace. They are searching for relief from the emotional weight they have been carrying for far too long. And the more they search, the more they are forced to acknowledge where all those feelings lead. They lead back to you. Not because everything was perfect, not because life is simple, but because certain connections leave marks that do not fade easily. Yesterday those marks became impossible for them to ignore. The memories grew louder. The emotions grew stronger. The reality grew clearer. And now they find themselves facing a truth they have been avoiding with everything they had. The truth that your absence has affected them far more deeply than they ever allowed themselves to admit. The truth that moving forward has not been as clean and simple as they pretended. The truth that what they feel for you is still alive. And as these realizations continue unfolding inside them, the pressure keeps building. Because once the heart finally recognizes the truth, returning to denial becomes nearly impossible. The walls may still stand for a little while longer. The silence may continue for now. The hesitation may remain, but something essential has already changed. Something awakened inside them yesterday. Something broke through the defenses they spent so long building. And that awakening is still unfolding right now, as you are reading this. They want to talk to you, but the fear of rejection keeps them frozen in place. Every time they think about reaching out, another voice inside them warns them about what could go wrong. They imagine being ignored. They imagine discovering that too much time has already passed. They imagine finding out that you have moved on so completely that there is no longer any space for them. This fear creates a powerful internal conflict. One part of them wants to close the distance. Another part wants to protect itself from possible disappointment. As these two forces collide inside them, they generate enormous emotional energy, and whether they realize it or not, much of that energy is directed toward you. That is why your intuition may have felt unusually active lately. That is why their presence may feel strangely close, even though the physical distance between you remains unchanged. Their mind has been working constantly trying to escape these emotions. They have searched for distractions. They have tried to stay busy. They have immersed themselves in routines. They have attempted to replace reflection with activity. Yet none of it has worked completely. Emotions do not disappear simply because they are ignored. They wait beneath the surface. They return. They rise again when the pressure builds. And yesterday that pressure reached a point where everything they had been trying to suppress pushed its way into full awareness. The floodgates opened. The emotions became impossible to manage. The memories became impossible to silence. And suddenly they were forced to acknowledge something they had spent so long trying to avoid. You still matter to them, not in a small way, not as a passing thought, but as someone whose absence continues to shape their inner world in ways they did not fully understand until now. That realization frightened them. Because once a person sees the depth of what they feel, they cannot pretend those feelings do not exist. They realize that your impact on their life remains present. Your memory remains powerful. Your place in their emotional world remains real. And for someone who has been trying to maintain distance and control, that kind of realization can feel completely overwhelming. The fear that followed was not only about missing you, it was also about regret. The fear of recognizing a mistake after time has already moved forward. The fear of wondering whether what was lost can ever be rebuilt. The fear of questioning choices that once felt so certain. These emotions did not stay in their mind. They moved into the body as well. When emotions become intense enough, they begin expressing themselves physically. The body reveals what the mind is trying to hide. And that is exactly what happened for this person yesterday. There may have been an unusual heaviness in their chest. Not pain exactly, just pressure. The feeling of carrying something unspoken and heavy. Every conversation never had. Every message never sent. Every truth never expressed. All of it accumulated into a weight that follows a person everywhere they go. Yesterday they felt that weight more strongly than at any other point in recent memory. There may have been moments when they stopped what they were doing and simply stared into space. Moments when they took a slow breath without understanding why. Moments when they felt suddenly overwhelmed by something they could not put into words. Their sleep has also been affected. Rest has become difficult for them. Even when they manage to fall asleep, true peace is hard to find. Their thoughts continue moving beneath the surface. Their emotions continue searching for answers even while the body tries to rest. They wake up unexpectedly. In the middle of the night, they find themselves thinking deeply when they should be sleeping. And in those quiet hours when every distraction disappears, thoughts of you grow louder. The silence leaves nowhere to run. The darkness creates space for honesty, and honesty keeps bringing them back to you. They remember moments they thought they had forgotten completely. They revisit old conversations. They replay important memories. They imagine different outcomes. The mind naturally returns to unfinished emotional stories, and for them this story still feels very unfinished. The emotional effort required to resist these feelings has drained them significantly. It consumes their energy. It reduces their motivation. It creates a tiredness that sleep alone cannot fix. This person may appear completely normal on the outside. They may continue working. They may continue meeting people. They may continue fulfilling their responsibilities. Yet internally, they feel depleted in a way that is hard to describe. People around them may notice small changes, a quieter mood than usual, less enthusiasm for things that once excited them, more moments of being lost in thought, a distant look in their eyes that appears and disappears without explanation. The spark that once came naturally now requires effort, because part of their attention remains caught elsewhere, tied to emotions that have no easy resolution. Even ordinary experiences feel slightly muted. Food tastes less interesting. Activities that used to bring pleasure feel less satisfying. Conversations feel less meaningful because they are only going through the surface of things. It is not because the world has become worse. It is because when the heart carries a heavy and unresolved burden, everything else loses some of its color. Everything feels a little less vivid than it should. Yesterday this feeling became especially strong for them. Nothing provided lasting comfort. Nothing filled the space inside them for more than a few moments at a time. The distractions worked briefly, and then the feelings returned. That is what happens when something important remains unresolved. The heart continues reaching, the mind continues searching, and the soul continues moving toward what it recognizes as meaningful. Even their senses became sharper in ways they did not expect. A familiar song caught their attention and stopped them cold. A familiar scent awakened a specific memory. A face in a crowd resembled yours for just a moment. And in that moment they thought of you. They felt your presence. They forgot the distance. Then reality returned, and with it came another wave of longing. Yesterday these moments happened far more frequently than usual. The mind became highly sensitive to anything that carried any connection to you. Every reminder felt significant. Every memory felt vivid. Every emotional trigger felt amplified beyond what they could easily handle. They found themselves pausing in the middle of ordinary moments, not because they planned to, but because something deeper inside them refused to move on. Their conscious mind may resist all of this. Their pride may resist it. Their fear may resist it. Yet something deeper continues pulling their attention toward you. This is why their inner world has felt so unstable. This is why yesterday was such a significant emotional turning point for them. And understanding what is happening beneath the surface of another person requires us to look beyond the obvious. Human beings are deeply connected through memory, emotion, and shared experience. When someone leaves a real mark on your life, that influence does not simply disappear with time. It remains within the mind. It remains within the heart. It remains within the patterns that shape how we feel and how we see the world. The emotional bond formed between two people who truly mattered to each other can persist in ways that are not always visible, but are always present. Thinkers throughout human history have explored this mystery. The idea that meaningful emotional connections create bonds that continue operating beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. Bonds that survive physical distance. Bonds that survive long silences. Bonds that can remain alive even when both people tell themselves they have moved on. And perhaps that is exactly why this person is experiencing such an intense reaction. They are no longer fighting a simple memory. They are confronting a living emotional reality inside themselves. A reality that grew stronger the longer they ignored it. A reality that became impossible to silence yesterday. A reality that is leading them toward truths they have been avoiding for far too long. What makes this so powerful is that emotional energy tends to accumulate quietly over time. Every feeling avoided, every truth left unspoken, every memory pushed away, all of it gathers beneath the surface. Eventually the pressure has nowhere left to go. It must rise, it must be felt, and yesterday was the moment when all of that accumulated pressure finally demanded recognition. Their logical mind tried to explain it away. It searched for rational reasons and practical solutions. It attempted to regain control. But emotions do not disappear simply because logic demands it. The heart follows its own rhythm. and yesterday that rhythm became impossible to override. These kinds of emotional moments serve a purpose. They force a person to confront parts of themselves they would rather avoid. They reveal fears. They expose what is truly wanted. They push toward a greater honesty that changes everything. That process is not comfortable. Growth rarely begins in comfort. It begins in discomfort and confusion and emotional pressure that refuses to go away quietly. That is exactly where this person finds themselves now. They are being forced to look inward. They are being forced to acknowledge what they have been denying. They are being forced to examine choices they once believed were the right ones. And in doing so, they are discovering things about themselves they did not expect to find, including the truth that you are not someone they can simply set aside and forget. Sometimes another person becomes a mirror, not a mirror that shows appearance, a mirror that reflects the deeper parts of the self, the fears, the hopes, the vulnerabilities, the capacity for love, the fear of losing love. When someone reflects those hidden parts back to us, the experience can feel completely overwhelming. Many people run from it, not because the connection has no value, but because the connection reveals truths they are not yet ready to face. Distance becomes protection. Silence becomes a shield. Avoidance becomes a defense. Yet eventually those defenses stop working. Reality catches up. The emotions demand attention, and that is what happened yesterday. The emotional pressure grew stronger than every defense they had. The truth grew louder than every excuse they made. The feelings grew stronger than all the resistance they could offer. For a brief moment, they saw everything with complete clarity. They saw the connection. They saw its significance. They saw the real impact your absence has had on their life. And that clarity shook them deeply. Because once the heart sees the truth clearly, returning to comfortable illusions becomes nearly impossible. The walls may hold a little longer. The silence may continue for now, but something important has already shifted inside them, and that shift is still unfolding right now. They cannot escape it. That is the honest truth of where they are right now. No matter how much they try to reset, no matter how many times they convince themselves to let it go, the feelings keep returning with the same quiet force, because some things cannot be unlearned. Some truths once seen cannot be unseen, and the truth they saw yesterday about you, about themselves, about what this connection has always meant, is one of those truths. It has settled into them now. It is sitting quietly in the center of everything they do, and it is not going anywhere. There is something worth understanding about the kind of person who goes silent when they are feeling the most. They are not cold. They are not indifferent. They are often the people who feel things so deeply that the weight of their own emotions becomes terrifying to them. They learned somewhere along the way that showing too much leads to pain, that vulnerability invites loss, that reaching out means risking everything. So they hold back, they go quiet. They create distance as a form of protection rather than a form of rejection. And the longer they hold back, the more the feelings build, until a moment like yesterday arrives, and the silence is no longer sustainable. That is what you are witnessing right now, not absence of feeling, the opposite, an overflow of it. What happens next depends on many things, but one thing is already certain. They are no longer in the same place they were before yesterday. Something cracked open inside them. Something honest made its way through. And now every day that passes without resolution will feel slightly heavier than the one before, because carrying something this significant without any direction forward is exhausting. It wears a person down slowly. It makes simple things feel complicated. It makes quiet moments feel unbearable. They are learning right now what it costs to hold everything in. And that lesson is changing them, whether they are ready for it or not. You may be wondering what you are supposed to do with all of this. That is a fair question, and the honest answer is that you do not have to do anything right now. But you do need to pay attention. Pay attention to how you feel in the coming days. Pay attention to the thoughts that arrive without being invited. Pay attention to the moments when something inside you reaches toward them without your permission. Your own emotional world is responding to theirs. That is real. That deserves your attention, even if it does not yet demand your action. What matters most right now is that you do not confuse their silence with their feelings. The silence is not the full story. It never was. Behind it lives everything that yesterday tried to bring to the surface. The longing, the regret, the hope that something between you is not yet finished, the fear that it might be. All of it is alive inside them right now, moving beneath every ordinary moment of their day, shaping everything even when they pretend otherwise. You were not imagined. What you shared was not meaningless. And the energy you have been sensing is not an accident or an illusion. It is real, and it is coming from a real place inside a real person who is finally beginning to stop lying to themselves about what they feel. The coming days will be interesting. Watch for small signs, a message that almost arrives, a moment where you sense them near even without any logical reason, a memory that appears in a dream, an urge to reach out that you cannot fully explain. These are not random. They are the natural result of what broke open yesterday. Emotional energy in motion tends to keep moving. It looks for a place to land, and right now it is moving in your direction with more force than it has in a very long time. What you do with that awareness is entirely up to you, but knowing it is there changes things. Knowing the truth of what is happening beneath the surface gives you something most people never have in situations like this: clarity. And clarity, even when it comes with uncertainty, is always better than confusion. So hold on to it, let it guide you, and trust that what is meant to reach you will find its way to you when the time is exactly right.